If a leader leaves, another will arise. These were the last words of slain Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh to his host Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei before he was allegedly assassinated by Israel in Tehran. The Quranic verse about life, death, immortality, and resilience cited by Haniyeh also seems to reflect the philosophy of the Palestinian group Hamas and its armed as well as political struggle against Israel's occupation. While critics are rejoicing over Haniyeh's killing, arguing that his death will demoralize Hamas or even dismantle it,
I think that it will weaken the Hamas and that it's time for them to understand that Israel is the strongest.
The Palestinian group has other ideas.
نتنياهو يعتقد أن اغتيال الأخ القائد إسماعيل هنية والعمليات التي يقوم بها داخل قطاع غزة يمكن أن تكسر إرادة الشعب الفلسطيني وإرادة المقاومة الفلسطينية على طاولة المفاوضات وخارج طاولة المفاوضات، ولكن نتنياهو واهم حركة حماس ستبقى صلبة تحافظ على ثوابت وحقوق شعبها ولن تقدم تنازلات تخصم من رصيد الشعب الفلسطيني.
The statement by the member of Hamas leadership was made at a mourning house in Qatar, where Haniyeh was laid to rest in a cemetery in the city of Lusail after a funeral ceremony attended by thousands of mourners. Haniyeh, who was among the chief negotiators of a ceasefire deal with Israel, which is waging a relentless war on the besieged territory of Gaza, was killed by a missile that directly hit a state guest house in Tehran where he was staying. Haniyeh headed the group's political bureau until his death. His deputy Saleh Aruri, who was killed in an Israeli strike in Beirut in January, would have been the natural successor of Haniyeh. However, with Aruri dead and his post still vacant, the political leadership of Hamas seems to have gone awry, and the Israeli attacks on Gaza, which is the group's base, further complicates matters. So, who could succeed Haniyeh? Who are the possible contenders for the post? Shura Council, the main consultative body of Hamas, is now expected to meet soon to name a new successor. The council's membership is kept secret but represents regional chapters of the group in Gaza, the West Bank, diaspora, and those imprisoned. A full leadership meeting may be complicated by their inability to convene. Many of the group's nearly 60 members are in Gaza. However, a consensus candidate may be named before the Shura is able to convene, with a formal election to be held by the council later. Haniyeh's successor will play an important role in maintaining relations and support from Hamas's allies outside the Palestinian territories. Equally important is the backing of regional allies, especially amid the war in Gaza. Reports suggest the choice is now likely between Khaled Mashal, a veteran Hamas official, and Khalil al-Hayya, an important Hamas figure who was closely associated with the military leadership of Hamas. Other possible contenders being considered for the role are Musa Abu Marzouk, Nizar Abu Ramadan, Yahya al-Sinwar, and Zaha Jabarin. Khaled Mashal became known around the world in 1997 after Israeli agents injected him with poison in a botched assassination attempt on a street outside his office in the Jordanian capital Amman. He has both political and diplomatic experience, but his relations with Iran, Syria, and Hezbollah have soured over his support for Arab protests in 2011. When he was in Lebanon in 2021, Hezbollah leaders reportedly refused to meet with him. However, Mashal has good relations with Turkey and Qatar, where the group is based, and is considered a more moderate figure who headed the group until 2017. Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas also chose to call him to offer his condolences for the killing of Haniyeh. Meanwhile, Yahya Sinwar, the powerful military leader of Hamas, is at the opposite end of that spectrum and is unlikely to support Mashal's leadership. Khalil al-Hayya, who is Sinwar's deputy, is a prominent leader living originally in Gaza, with important international connections and good relations with the military wing, as well as with Iran, Qatar, Egypt and Turkey. He was the first leader to speak after the attack on Haniyeh. He said the killing of Haniyeh proves that Hamas's options with Israel is blood and resistance, not talks or negotiations, adding, "As much as the killing of Haniyeh pains us, we reassure the nation our option in Hamas and resistance is continuing with a clear strategy. That doesn't deviate with the martyrdom of a leader or 10. After years of cold relations with the Iran-led axis of resistance over Hamas's backing of the opposition against Syrian President Bashar Assad during Syria's conflict that began in March 2011, Hamas began mending its relations with Iran and reconciled with Assad. Al-Hayya was the one who headed a delegation that went to Syria in 2022 to meet Assad. Hani al-Masri, an expert on Palestinian organizations, said that Al-Hayya is like Haniyeh, who was balanced and flexible, and both sides didn't see his leadership as problematic. Musa Abu Marzouk, Mashal's deputy, is another potential candidate. Marzouk is subject to an asset freeze in the UK, which is an ally of Israel and is supporting Tel Aviv's war on Gaza. He was placed under counter-terrorism regulations by Britain. He has also represented Hamas in various interviews in what BBC called polished and measured manner. Marzouk is also listed as a specially designated global terrorist by the Treasury Department of the US, another staunch ally of Israel, and is indicted on several charges of coordinating and financing Hamas activities. Nizar Abu Ramadan had challenged Sinwar for the role of Gaza chief and is considered close to Mashal. With a background in journalism, Ramadan was the acting member of the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate. He has also been a publisher. In 1992, he was deported by Israel to Lebanon's Marj al-Jawa. On September 25, 2005, he was arrested by Israel and held for 6 months in administrative detention in Ketziot prison. Yahya al-Sinwar, elected in February 2017 to lead Hamas in the Gaza Strip, is a hardliner and an alleged mastermind of the October 7th attack. The ascetic 61-year-old spent 23 years in Israeli prisons before being released in 2011 as part of a prisoner exchange. Born in Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip, he joined Hamas when it was founded in 1987, the year of the first Intifada or uprising against Israel. He would go on to establish Majad, the group's internal security service. The former elite commander in the Al-Qassam Brigades, Hamas's armed wing, is wanted by Israel and appears on the United States list of sanctioned international terrorists. Al-Sinwar, who shrouds his movements in the highest secrecy, has not appeared in public since October 7th, and he is on Israel's hit list. However, observers say he is expected to remain the commander in Gaza, looking after the military front. Zaha Jabarin has been Hamas's long-time treasurer, also known as the group's CEO, who was close to Haniyeh and was sometimes described as one of his right-hand men. After being detained in Israeli prisons, he was released in 2011 as part of an exchange for the release of Gilad Shalit, an Israeli soldier held hostage for 5 years. Jabarin, who has strong ties with Turkey, where he once lived, has allegedly recruited people for large-scale money laundering activities, 2 of whom were arrested in Israel in 2018. He has also allegedly taken part in deadly operations carried out by Hamas's armed wing. Observers believe that the context of Haniyeh's succession may influence the future of Hamas more than the individual personality of its leader. Haniyeh's killing and the faltered ceasefire talks are likely to strengthen hardliners within the movement and further shift Hamas toward hardline strategies and away from diplomacy and politics. According to Hugh Lovat, who is an expert on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with the European Council on Foreign Relations. A source from the group told AFP that relations with Arab and Islamic countries will also be taken into account in picking its next leader. Qatar, which has been hosting Hamas leadership and is a key mediator in the negotiations for a ceasefire, could play the role of arbiter in naming a successor in case of a lack of internal or regional consensus. As Hamas decides on who will replace Haniyeh, analysts point out that the successor will most likely move to the top of Israel's hit list given the country's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's commitment to eliminate Hamas and its leadership.
כל מחבלי החמאס, מהראשון עד האחרון, הם בני מוות. יש להם רק שתי אפשרויות, להיכנע או למות.
Israel has yet to take responsibility for the attack on Haniyeh officially. It has decided to maintain silence on the matter, even as Iran, Hamas, and Turkey have explicitly blamed Tel Aviv for the reported assassination. However, the Israeli government press office did post a photo of Haniyeh on Facebook with the word eliminated over his head. The office later took down the photo. The killing of Haniyeh came less than 24 hours after Israel assassinated Fuad Shukar, a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon's Beirut. This has raised fears of a wider war breaking out, embroiling the entire Middle East, with both Hezbollah and Iran vowing revenge on Israel and the US deploying fighter jets and warships to the region. Given the escalating tensions in the region, the new Hamas leader will have his work cut out for him.